The spring has sprung, the grass has riz, and I have been doing the spring pruning on the apple trees, and we're going to be using this lot to help create the 50,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now this week we are going to start making the 50,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. It's been a long time coming, nearly 3 years in fact, but we're nearly there and I've got to start making. Now this lot is a lot of the twigs that I've been cutting off the apple trees, getting them ready for summer. Now this is just a small selection of them, but being a kind of creatively strange mind, I started looking at them thinking, is there a way I can use them in a piece? And I think I've come up with an idea, but the first thing we've got to do is start preparing them so we can use them. At the moment, they are still fairly green. You can still look very, very flexible. So we've got to cut them into reasonable size pieces and get them dried. So what I'm going to do now is try and select as many nice pieces as I can, down to about 10 millimeters, which is about a third of an inch. We'll nick off the sides, get them nice and straight, and then dry them. There we go, there's all our apple sticks nicely processed. Now they are still very, very wet. There's quite a lot of moisture inside, as you can see from them. And I know you can't smell it, but the smell in here is really quite nice from the freshly cut wood. So what we have to do now is to dry these. And the best way to do that is in an oven. Okay, before I put them in the oven, I've just split them into two different sizes. The larger ones and the medium to small sizes. The reason why I've done this is because the larger ones will obviously take longer to dry than the smaller ones, and the best way I can figure out of measuring how dry they're getting is by weight. I would imagine that these are probably around about 40% moisture currently, so at their current weight of 467 grams for this pile, I would hope that they will lose around 35 to 40% in weight when they're done. Same for this lot, that starts at 757 grams. So when they're cooked, hopefully we can measure them and see what difference it makes. Now, as you know, I'm banned from the kitchen here, so I've bought a little oven. This is the baking rack, and we're going to be stretching these out like this, and then I shall be putting them in. I'm going to be cooking them at about 90 degrees Celsius. And I'll start off by cooking them for an hour and a half and see where that gets us. Now I do have a smoke alarm in the workshop, so we should be all right. Famous last words. That's not going to work, is it? Okay. Now ideally we would try and get as much air circulation around them as possible, so to combat that, I will be taking them out and giving them a shake fairly regularly, a bit like your roast potatoes. Right, I shall get these in. Okay, We've got them all dry. They're all down by at least 40% in weight, so that means we've lost an awful lot of the moisture out of them, which is fantastic. The bark is solid as a rock on there, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Now we've got the situation where we've got to do something with them. Now, a lot of people like to make bowls like this. They just put it into a mold, maybe put a form in the middle, pour resin in, and there you go. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do something with this. This is a nice piece of puduk. I've had it for quite a while, and I've been looking for something quite special to do with it. So this, I think, is a very good time. Now, we do have a nice hole marked for a center, and that's the ideal side because we've got some sapwood on here. So when we turn up the edges, we are going to lose the majority of that. So I'm going to get a worm screw in here, get it on the lathe, and we're going to get this flat and start marking it out. Okay, we're nice and safely on the lathe. So the first job is to flatten the base and round up the sides so it's all nice and square, and then we can start marking it up. The reason for that will become obvious hopefully soon. Okay, that's pretty much trued it up nicely. Still little bits of the wax on it, but that's good enough for what we need. So I'm going to take away the tailstock, bring up the tool rest, and put it at a height where when I put my pen on top, it goes directly into the center hole. There, that should do it. Right now this lathe has an indexing function. In other words, if I put, sorry Hooch, you're going to have to move. If I put this lock on here, it'll lock in place. If I release it, give it a small rotation and put the lock back on, it will lock again in the second position. And it has 24 of those such positions. So what I'm going to do is mark on here all of those 24 lines. I'm not quite sure exactly how many we will need, but if I've got them all, then I've got enough definitely to do the job. So we'll start in this position. Right. And there we have 24 lines, all equidistant. So the next thing I'm going to try and do is figure out a place on here where I can drill a hole, and if I drill it again where there'll be a small piece of wood left in the middle. For instance, if I drilled in there, you can see how close it is to that line, and if I drilled again on here, then it would just be this side of that line as well. So I want there to be a small piece of wood in between the two, but not too big. So I think about there. So I'm going to make a good mark on that surface with the point of the Forstner bit. Get my lucky white pen out again. And mark that line all the way around. And with a little hole maker, I'm going to mark those points all the way around. So that's the first one. second. It's every other one, remember. If this doesn't work, I'm going to look a right idiot. But we'll give it a go. So there we are. Got drill marks now, every other hole. Okay, so the next job is to take this off, take it over to the drill press, and try and successfully drill all these holes without making a mistake. Okay, we're all set up ready to start drilling the holes. I'm going to have to try and be as accurate as I can with each one, so I'll get the point of the Forstner bit into the pre-made hole we had, clamp it up, double check and cut. Okay, that seemed to work. And I think I'm going to keep hold of some of these shavings because they're amazing. Right, I'll do the other 12 and I'll bring you back when that's all sorted. Okay, there's our blank all nicely cut with the 12 holes. Now off camera, I've put a board on the back which will help keep everything in place while we're getting it all sorted out. Now I've got all my sticks here, all nice and dry. And what I'm going to quickly do is try and get an idea of how it should look. I've no real preconceptions apart from putting sticks in holes, so we'll have a bit of a play around and see if I can figure out something which looks nice, is appealing and practical as well. Now it's my intention, once we've got this, put resin in to fill the gaps, and that'll hopefully give us a nice solid blank to work on when we start to come to turn. So I'm thinking something like that. If I can get them in a little bit tighter, I will. I think something like that will be fine. Right, I've got my hot glue gun warming up, and when that's reached temperature, I'll start gluing these little sticks in these holes. Okay, my end is beginning to drip, so I think we're about ready. I've got a plan of attack in my head, so we'll get started. I don't need a lot of glue on these pieces, it's just basically to keep them in place when I put the resin in so they don't start floating. Okay, I think that will do that. Right, I'm going to get ready to mix up some resin, and I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, we're all about ready to start mixing up the resin. Now I'm going to be using the Let's Resin Deep Pour Epoxy as usual because it's nice and thin and it'll get into all the little cracks between the little sticks, so hopefully we'll have no air bubbles. So I'm going to make up 450 ml, which is probably too much, but as I'm using a couple of different colours, I want to have enough rather than having to try and match it if I don't make enough. Right, so this is a 2-to-1 mix, so I'm going to mix in 300 millilitres of part A to 150 millilitres of part B. Okay, now in terms of colour, I'm going to go for a purplish red. Yes, that is exactly the colour on the label. and a black as well. These are both mica powders from Let's Resin. And the reason why I'm using a purplish red is to match the Padauk, because it has such a beautiful colour when it's finished. Now I'm going to add a reasonable quantity of each powder. So I want this to be quite a deep colour. I don't want it to be transparent. Right, we'll give these a thorough mix. There we go. Right, we'll let this sit for a little while while I prepare the blank ready for the pour. Okay, the blank's all ready. I've put tape around the sides and the bottom to hopefully make sure that there won't be any leaks. I can't see why there should be, but you never know. Right, I'll pour in the resin. If the sticks are put in loose, look like they're going to float in any way, I'll just put a bit of tape over the top, but I'll play it by ear. Right, where shall I start? I think this side here. I can say at this part of the proceedings, I think I'm fairly certain I haven't made enough resin. It'll be close, but I don't think I have. Okay, right, that's them all filled on the first run. I'm going to jiggle the sticks around a little bit, just to make sure that they're all completely submerged and the resin's got in everywhere between them, and then top them all up again. Now if I don't have enough resin, what I might do is cut some sticks in half into little tiny pieces and fill in the gaps. There's a reasonable gap in there I can fill, like that, and that of course will raise the level of the resin, meaning I don't have to mix any more. Right, I'm going to poke at this for a while until I'm happy, and then we'll get it into the pressure pot. And there we go, we're done. Right, I'll get this into the pressure pot. We'll leave it in there for about 3 or 4 days, and then we'll come back and see if we've succeeded. Okay, there's our blank, all nicely finished. We do have a couple of dips in a couple of areas, so I'm going to have to be very careful how I treat those. I'm not sure that they're going to interfere with the design I have in mind, but we'll soon find out. Now, one thing you'll notice is that we've got an awful lot of very, very proud sticks, so I quickly want to nip those off, and then we'll get this on the lathe. Okay, we're all ready to start. First order of business is to take off our little plywood backing, initially turning at about 900 RPM, 3/8 inch bowl gouge and face shield on. Wow. That is really quite interesting. Okay, what do we do now? In terms of design, this blank isn't overly thick. So with these being round the edge, I want to try and make as much of a feature of these as I can. And the one style of bowl I know that will help with is the kind of flying saucer style. So sloping edges from about here to the edge, and then a nice refined bowl in the middle. So that's initially what I'm thinking of doing. So for the bottom here, I've got to start working in this edge to leave us a nice little foot around there. I'll just draw that in. That's a glue stick, not a pen. That's a pen. A nice little foot probably around there, and then the recess will be around there somewhere. Okay, right. Now in terms of the side, what I would normally do is take it halfway up. Because we've still got some dips on this top, this side is going to have to be a little bit lower than I would normally put in. So somewhere around there. I can refine it later on, but that's, I think, where we'll start with. So initially, creating a nice curve, nice gentle curve from the foot area to about there on the sides. Right, it's coming along nicely. It's quite a tricky cut because with that pull cut, when you're going through the paduk, it's really nice and soft, very easy to turn. And then as soon as you hit the resin with the end grain pieces, then it becomes a little bit more problematic. So I'm going to have to take this very carefully to make sure I don't mess up. But I'm really liking the look of that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. The curve is nice. It's a nice graduation. We don't need to do an awful lot more than that, I don't think. I'm going to take away the tailstock for the moment, put a recess in, and then I think we can sand. Okay, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Sanding went beautifully. Right, we're just going to quickly go on with the isopropyl alcohol just to help get all the dust particles off the grain. I'll give us a first look at how this is going to look with a finish on it. I've not turned Padauk for ages, and it really is such a beautiful wood. You get an amazing kind of orange dust from it, which does get everywhere, but it's worth it. Right, we'll give this a few seconds to dry, and then we'll come back with a sealer. Okay, that's all nice and dry, so we're going to go on with a button shellac sealer. This will help bring out the natural rich tones of the Padauk wood. That looks amazing. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And if you leave a comment as well, then as long as you get in on time, you may have a chance of winning this piece. Okay, we'll give this a little second to dry, and then we'll come back with an abrasive paste. Okay, so plenty of time to dry, so we're going to go on with the Northern Grit abrasive paste. I apply this with the piece spinning, so it's always best to wear eye protection. Okay, that went on beautifully. Right, we'll take off the excess again with more isopropyl. Give this a good while to dry, and then we'll come back on with a final finish. Okay, that's all nice and dry, so we're going to go on with our shine juice again. And we apply this by dripping it on the cloth as we're moving it across the surface. Obviously with the lathe spinning. Okay, I'm going to let this dry, apply a couple more coats, and then I'll bring it back when we've turned it round. Okay, we've got it turned round. Now, we've got a few things to bear in mind. First of all, we've got some dips in between these sticks, so we need to get to the base of them. Secondly, we need to leave an area in the middle for a bowl, which is going to be around there. So initially, I'm just going to be working in this area with my bowl gouge and try and get to the bottom of these dips and see what we're left with. As I'm doing it, I will be putting this curve in, so when we do get there, we're in a good position to carry on. Okay, going well. As you can see, we're not quite at the base of these dips yet, but on this side we are, so we're just going to keep on going down until we get a nice smooth surface and a curve coming to this edge. Okay, let's see how we're getting on. Tiny dip there. All in all, it's looking pretty good. A couple more passes and that'll be there. Right, now what do I want to do with this edge? Do I want to make it to a point, Or do I want to leave a flat area? I don't know. Or do I want to put a little dip in it? That could be interesting. Horrible to sand, but it could be interesting. Right, let's do a couple more passes on here, get that completely clean, and then I'll decide what to do on this little rim area. Okay, let's take a look. Right, I think that has resolved all our issues. Beautiful. Right, now, got decisions to make. First one is, what do I do with this edge? Do I leave it flat or do I put a slight dip into it? And the second one is, do I put a lip on here or do I just take it straight into the bowl? One step at a time. I think I'll flatten off this edge first, see how that looks, and then decide whether or not to put a dip into it. Okay, I think I like that flat edge. If this was, if Padauk was a denser wood, then I'd feel more confident about putting the dip in. But it's a bit like a mahogany Padauk, and it's liable to flake. So we'll ignore that for the moment and just leave that flat. Now, with regards to the bowl, I think what I'm going to do is start hollowing this out, and I'll take it up to that edge. So there's no, the only lip you'll see is this little bit on the side. There won't be a flat area on the top. We'll see how that looks. If it looks odd, then I can just take it all the way to this base. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go and sharpen up again, and then we'll take the tailstock away and carry on hollowing out. Okay, now looking at the wood, I don't think it's going to handle this type of rim. It's a bit too flaky for that, so we'll take that away and smooth out the inside. Okay, I am really happy with that. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding again. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I should bring you back when it's done. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. Right, we'll give it a wipe down again with isopropyl. Why am I giving this away? We'll let this dry and I'll come back with a sealer. Okay, that's had plenty of time to dry. So back on with a button shellac sealer. We'll let this dry. Okay, that's all nice and dry. So back on with an abrasive paste. We'll rub it in again as before with the lathe spinning. Eye protection is on. Any excess, remove with isopropyl again. And then we'll finish it off with a shine juice. Okay, nice and dry. And then on with the shine juice. Like before, we'll apply it with the lathe spinning. Okay, I'm going to apply a couple more coats, then I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at what we're giving away. Well, there we go. To celebrate 50,000 subscribers, we've created an apple, paduk and resin bowl, and I have loved every second of it. Making pieces like this are very time consuming. The entire process probably took about a week to complete, but I think it was worth every single second. And of course, it wouldn't be possible without the incredible support you have all given me. And I will always be very, very grateful. Thank you. So if you want to win this, all you have to do is obviously subscribe to the channel and have left a comment in one of the qualifying videos. Basically, every video we've released since our last giveaway is a qualifying video. If you leave a comment, then that counts as one entry and you can enter as many times as you like. Now obviously I do try and reply to every single comment, so if you do start spamming them, then prepare for my responses to get shorter and shorter. But that's alright, I don't mind. If you fancy having a go at a resin project like this, then there's always discount links in the description below for Let's Resin, the resin I prefer and use a lot of. It certainly does a fantastic job and it's done very, very well on this piece indeed. Absolutely fantastic. Apart from the competition, if you've enjoyed this one, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things, and if you could share it as well, then that would be absolutely fantastic. Now next week we are going to be doing another giveaway. That's to celebrate our 3rd anniversary, and the winner of both of those pieces will be decided on the 5th of April. So remember, all you have had to have done is to comment on any of the qualifying videos and you will be entered. So thank you very much indeed for your incredible support, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.